You know, there's something absolutely primal about a good, scary story, isn't there? It's that instinct that makes you lean in closer, whether you're around a campfire or just staring at your screen, as the story gets darker and darker. We actually crave that chill, the goosebumps, that feeling of a story that seems just a little too real. But what is it that really makes these stories work so well? I mean, why do we willingly invite fear into our lives, into our safe spaces? That is the big, fascinating question we're going to dig into today. So we're going to go way beyond just the scares. We're going to deconstruct 3 supposedly true horror stories to find out what really makes them tick. What are the common threads that weave together to create that feeling of pure, unadulterated terror? Okay, our first story takes place where we should feel the most secure on Earth, our own home. But as we're about to see, that feeling of safety, well, it can be shattered in an instant. So get this, our narrator is a welder, a guy who's lived on his farm for 40 years. He's a widower, living all alone in a house that holds all the memories of his late wife, Maria. He's isolated, he's grieving, and that vulnerability, that's exactly where this story begins. The terror here isn't a sudden jump scare, not at all. It's this slow, creeping dread. It starts with just a flicker of movement that he tries to brush off. But then he hears footsteps, undeniable footsteps, coming from his late wife's bedroom. So the intruder isn't just in his home, they're in a sacred space. This methodical escalation leads to this absolutely terrifying confrontation, and then the chilling realization that the nightmare isn't over. He's still being watched. This quote from the welder himself just captures the raw emotional impact. After the chase, after all the confusion, all that's left is pure, unfiltered fear. So let's really break this down. First, and this is the big one, is the violation of his sanctuary. His home is no longer safe, but it's so much more insidious than that. The intruder specifically targets his late wife's memory, basically turning his grief into a weapon against him. And finally, there's this awful element of gaslighting. With no proof, he's left wondering if he's losing his mind, which is, a terrifying thought all on its own. All right, our second story shows how terror can just bleed out from the home and into the everyday world. The horror here isn't about some haunted past, but the frightening randomness of the present, and how a totally normal evening can curdle into a nightmare. It all starts with something so simple, something we've all done. You notice a weird car at a McDonald's parking lot. It's just a passing thought. But then, when that same exact car shows up moments later at a secluded nature preserve, well, that's when coincidence just evaporates. This isn't random anymore. This is personal. And just like that, the situation explodes. The narrator isn't just being followed by a car anymore. He is now faced with 4 potential threats in a completely deserted area. And the tension just keeps ratcheting up. 3 men start walking towards them, smiling these smiles that don't reach their eyes. But the narrator knows there were 4. So where's the 4th guy? The unseen threat, the one lurking in the shadows. That is always the most terrifying. So after this terrifying chase, they actually manage to escape. And the next day, they smartly go back to that McDonald's to report the employee. And that's when they find out the horrifying truth. This guy wasn't just some random creep. No, he was a known stalker who'd just been fired for harassing his ex-girlfriend, and he was waiting for her in that parking lot. What makes this so unbelievably chilling is just the sheer randomness of it all. The narrator and his friend, they did nothing to provoke this. They were just existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. They accidentally stumbled into someone else's dangerous obsession. The fear is born from paranoia, that feeling of being watched, and of course, the unseen threat of that 4th man, a predator waiting in the shadows. Okay, our final story takes us to a classic horror setting, an abandoned building. But the terror here isn't about what you see, it's about what you don't see, and the absolutely terrifying power of ambiguity. So, imagine this. A group of friends, they're exploring the dusty, forgotten basement of an abandoned church. The air is thick, you can smell the decay. They're drinking, they're laughing, breaking the silence. And then, a sound that just freezes your blood. A loud, violent slam. While half the group just bolts, a brave few stay behind to check out the room where the sound came from. And this is what they find. Cracked glass on a mirror, smeared with red stains. And then comes that chilling realization. The stains aren't old, they're fresh. The implication just hangs there in the air. Whatever happened here, it happened recently, and whoever did it might still be very close by. As they finally make a run for it, the narrator looks back and sees this, a silhouette in the window. It's this final, haunting image that gives them no answers, only more dread. See, the power of this story is its ambiguity. It never tells you what happened. Was it a squatter, a ghost, or was it just their fear playing tricks on them? The not knowing is what makes it so terrifying, because our own imaginations will always, always conjure the most frightening monster. So what do we have? We have a haunted home, a terrifying chase, and a really disturbing discovery in an abandoned church. 3 totally different stories, right? But they all tap into the exact same deep-seated fears. Let's break down what they actually have in common. I mean, just look at the common thread running through all of these. The welder's story is a violation of his home, his sanctuary. The driver's story is a violation of trust in a public space. And the explorer's story is a violation of a forbidden boundary. Every single one of these stories, at its core, is about a fundamental violation of what we think of as a safe space. This gives us a really clear formula for terror. The violation of a safe space, that's the main ingredient, by far. It's followed closely by ambiguity, which lets our own minds do the scaring. Then you've got the unpredictable nature of other people, that fear that anyone could be a threat. And finally, that slow, deliberate escalation that just cranks up the tension until it's almost unbearable. So, what have we learned? The most effective horror stories, they aren't about supernatural creatures. They're about the fragility of our own safety, the unpredictability of the world all around us. They tap into our deepest anxieties because they feel real, because we can imagine ourselves in these exact situations. And that leaves us with one final unsettling question. The next time you hear a bump in the night, what story will you tell yourself?